Good morning, everyone. If you want to move closer, that's fine. If you can hear me, that's fine. I'm going to talk this morning about PaaS. Yes, I do have the lurgy. I apologize now if I start coughing my head off, but I know a few people have already got the lurgy. It's this time of year. Guys, if you don't know me, I'm going to introduce myself in a minute, but I know a lot of people in the crowd already. My style of presenting, I like to keep it very interactive. Let's have a bit of fun. Please don't hesitate to stop me. You know what? I'm really vulnerable because of this cold, so if you want to heckle, this is the time to do it, right? If you want to beat me up, trip me up, now is the day. Guys, if you've been in my sessions before, I always like to bring goodies with me. So, I do have some prizes for people who want to interact or people who are generally interested in the topic this morning. And those prizes include books that have not been released yet, vouchers for Amazon, and some free software as well, okay? I've only got 3 vouchers for Amazon, so I might keep them till the end and ask some questions at the end. Okay, let me continue. Let me introduce myself. If you don't know me, this is me. I work for a company called Atos. By the way, guys, this is not a sales session for Atos, it's a community session. You'll see that, and hopefully I'll minimize any kind of sales waffle. I've been around the industry for some years. I'm a blogger. I'm on Twitter as well, like most people in the room as well. But I'm going to ask you a few questions, actually, related to me and what I'm doing now and where I think the future is. Hands up if you spent the last 5-10 years basically building your profession around infrastructure and VMware and virtualization. Hey, everyone. You, Stu? Are you sure? No. Okay, so same for me as well. 10 years ago, I became a VMware instructor. And before that, I'd been using VMware loosely for test and dev for about 4 or 5 years before that. And I think 10 years ago, we started to see a shift in the industry. VMware as a solution for data centers and enterprises started to become more mainstream. Would you agree? Right, yeah? So 10 years on, VMware still plays a big part in our lives. But over the last few years, personally myself, I've started to see a shift in interest. When I go to speak to customers, I've been trying to sell private cloud and cloud to customers for a long time. And the usual response that I get from customers when I go into a meeting is, yeah, we want that private cloud stuff, but tell us about the interesting stuff. Tell us about the app automation and PaaS and Ansible and Puppet and containers, because that's what they want to listen to now. So if you take anything away today, hopefully I'll teach you a few things about Cloud Foundry, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But if you take anything away today, maybe now is the time that we're starting to see a shift in terms of interest, right? Maybe it's the time we, as a community, start looking at other things than just infrastructure. I'm not saying that you have to ditch VMware, right? Yeah, we all love VMware, but now maybe there's something else on the horizon. Let me explain. Any questions so far? Does anyone get the last bullet point on my slide? Yes, love you, man. Love you. Yeah, love you, man. You can have a voucher for that. That's right, yeah. Look, I had this grand plan. I'll talk a bit quicker, but I had this grand plan for this session. I was going to do a very generic presentation on PaaS in general. And in my organization, I have the luxury of playing with a few toys. Then I realized that I only have 40 minutes. So I've cut down the presentation to focus really on one type of PaaS. And that type of PaaS is for cloud-native applications, namely around the technology known as Cloud Foundry. Now, hands up if you've heard of Cloud Foundry before. Cool, nearly everyone. Hands up if you know the origin of Cloud Foundry. Oh. Arthur? Yeah? Arthur? You think you know where it came from? Tell me where it came from. What?
It's a trick question.
It's not a trick question. I just want to know if you know.
You want to embarrass me in front of
All right, well, I won't embarrass you, Arthur. Right. Yeah, I know. He's one of my mates. Don't worry. Okay, look. Not a sales session, by the way. You will see our company logo. Forget about that. The key thing is everything you'll see today, it's all open source anyway, so you can do all of this yourself. In fact, the last slide I've got, I'm going to teach you how to do it yourself anyway. Yeah, I need to break away. By the way, if anyone wants to help me out, on my blog, there is a survey to help me understand what you want to do in terms of microservices and application platforms and so on. Please fill in that survey. It's 6 questions. But let me ask you a question. Can you see that? Can you see it? Let me refresh that. Can you still see it? Right. Hands up if you think it's a crappy Hello World app. Right, okay. Hands up if you think it's something different. Why did you put your hands up? Because it's me. Right, okay. I'll just hold that thought, right? We're going to come back to this in a minute. Hold that thought. Okay. All right. So, okay. Does anyone know what this is? Anyone? It's not a trick question. Where did this come from? What does it look like? Wikipedia. Copy-paste. Anyone else? What? It sounds a bit Gartnerish, doesn't it? It's probably the NIST definition of what PaaS is, right? N-A-I-S-T, right? I'm a stickler for that. So anytime someone says to me, yeah, this is PaaS, I go, is it? And I follow the rules, right? Yeah. But PaaS for me, and I will be a stickler about this because there are products on the market that claim to be PaaS, and what is PaaS? But PaaS for me is a platform delivered by a provider that allows customers to consume that platform to deploy applications, run applications, and have those applications supported by a plethora of tools and languages that are supported by the provider. So I'm a bit of a stickler on that point, right? Remember that point, it's very important. Because these kind of things are the characteristics of what a PaaS is. What does PaaS stand for? Well, it's platform as a service. So for me, again, I'm going to be a stickler about this, but yeah, a few laughs at the picture. Good, I think you like it. PaaS is a bit more than application automation. And why am I a stickler about that? Because there are a lot of products on the market that claim to be PaaS, and the reality is they're not much more than application automation. Application automation does play a big part in what PaaS is. You expect to be able to do things like automate aspects of deploying or running your applications, right? For me, the problem I have with products that are just application automation is PaaS should be so much more. There should be more things in PaaS like the ability to manage the life cycle of those applications, monitor the applications, self-heal the applications, load balance the applications, and handle the networking of those applications as well. There's a few bullet points on there as well, which I'll talk about in a bit more detail. A key thing, I suppose, is PaaS should be multi-tenant. Now, multi-tenant doesn't necessarily mean multiple organization. It could mean multiple departments, internal multi-tenancy or public multi-tenancy. Any questions so far? By the way, questions equals prizes. I have a lot of prizes here. Okay, let's keep going. So, why do it? You know what? Every time I do a presentation, this bloody question catches me out. So I'm prepared this time, right? So why do PaaS in the first place? And the reality is Well, Pivotal, and I'll talk about who Pivotal is in a minute, but Pivotal and IBM and others that are big on PaaS at the moment have, analysed the industry, found out what customers are doing, and realised that developers are actually only spending about 15% of their time actually writing code, because the other time is spent spinning up virtual machines or preparing Docker images with different frameworks in. What? Say again? Drinking coffee. That sounds like a good one as well. All right, so, yeah, but ultimately, why do it? Let someone else do it, yeah? Let's make use of the cloud. Let's make those developers more productive. And let's automate a lot of the stuff, a lot of the services that are required by developers. So that is the key reason to do PaaS. Quick question. Anyone serious about doing PaaS? One or two people, right? Anyone doing it today? Yes? What platforms are you using?
We have absolutely crap implementation.
Of?
What they've done is divide a virtual machine into sections.
Yeah.
And basically give each client or tenant a section of a virtual machine.
What product was that with? It's just homegrown. That sounds crappy. It really does. Look, I'm going to do you a favour. I'm going to give you a prize. So this prize is this is a consolation prize. It's a license for an admin tool called Remote Desktop Manager. That should take away some of the pain, right? Okay. So anyone else doing PaaS? Yes, sir. What are you using? Yeah. I'm sorry, say again, a bit louder, last bit. Cool. I think you deserve a prize as well. All right, so a few people are doing PaaS. I should have made you come up there. Okay, there you go. All right. Do you know what? This, yeah, go for it.
What's the difference between PaaS and what I would call an automated build that we've been doing for sort of the last 5 to 10 years? We've got the whole stack end-to-end automated, and now there's a buzzword wrapped around it.
Yeah, so exactly my last bullet point, my last slide, right? Yeah. So we see PaaS as so much more, right? Yeah, than just automating a stack of applications, right? The requirement to automate your JBoss servers or Tomcat servers with X services like database services attached to it and all of that, that's one challenge addressed by PaaS, right? But for us, as a services company, I suppose I'm seeing it from a services perspective. Yeah, we're more interested in the management of that after it's been deployed. How does it work? How's it operating? How's it performing? How can we scale it? Yeah, because and I'm holding back a little bit because I'm going to show you some features in a bit in terms of what Cloud Foundry does. Yeah, but yeah, we'd expect just more than just the app automation itself, right? And building up that stack. And you know what? Let me give you another one of these. But I wish I'd had the more time because I would have showed you our other PaaS platform, which is right up your street. Okay, so sorry about the sniffling, guys. Cloud native apps. And the platform or PaaS variant that we're going to talk about today is based on a solution called Cloud Foundry. And it's very specific in its use case. Who's heard of cloud native apps before? Yeah? What does that mean? Massimo, keep quiet. Say again? Who said that? I can't even see you saying that. You again. Oh, you're not having another prize. Right. So applications that what? All right, so you're saying that applications that might be cloud aware. Yeah, all right, so Yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute, in a bit more detail. In terms of what we're doing with cloud-native apps, Atos as an organization, we're definitely looking at different products. I think there's different use cases. The thing is, why I'm bringing Cloud Foundry today is Cloud Foundry was probably first to the game in terms of having a PaaS solution for cloud-native applications. I will go into more detail about what that means in a minute. If you didn't know where Cloud Foundry came from, well, it kind of evolved out of VMware. I'll talk about how that happened as well shortly. Cloud Foundry was spin-off from VMware, moved into an organization called Pivotal. Heard of Pivotal? Okay, good. Part of the VMware family. But did you know that there's an open source variant of Cloud Foundry as well? So what Pivotal did was they open sourced it, yeah? So Pivotal is the major contributor for Cloud Foundry, but there's also an open source version. So what you'll find is big organizations like us and IBM and HP and now Google have all their own distribution of Cloud Foundry based on the open source version. As an organization, we actually develop both solutions. And we're also a contributor to the open source project as well. So, cloud native apps, what does that mean? As this gentleman rightly said, it's about understanding that your application might have to move from cloud to cloud, right? Yeah. It needs to be cloud aware. So there's some rules and some guidelines about how you do that in terms of application development. Typically, the platforms are used for microservices. If you don't know what microservices are, don't worry. I'm going to explain what those are in a second. And the industry kind of follows a mantra known as the 12-factor apps. Hands up if you've ever heard of 12-factor apps. Okay, why does all the VMware guys put their hands up here? Right, okay, good. Massimo, do you need a prize? No, are you sure? Okay, let's keep going. So, 12-factor apps, and to your point, sir, what's your name? Gavin. Right, to your point, Gavin, the industry have kind of really focused around some standards to make applications cloud aware, right? And one of those, I call it the 12 commandments, is called 12-factor apps, which was designed by or created by another PaaS vendor called Heroku. And 12-factor apps is about making sure, as a developer, that you develop your apps in a very, very specific way so they can move from cloud to cloud. And some examples of that mantra is doing things like keeping your application stateless, keeping configuration information for your applications centralized, maybe in a database or in an environment variable, right? Yeah. Does this make sense? Has anyone got any questions? Okay. Yes, sir.
What about architecture, like 32-bit, 64-bit? Isn't that a kind of a limitation as well?
Well, yeah. I think I'll come back to that in a second, right? Yeah. We'll talk about specifically the architecture of Cloud Foundry and how that relates and how that's evolving. I'll answer that there. Do you want a prize? Yeah, of course. Yeah. And look, I've got so many prizes, right? There you go. That's a nice license key. Whoa. Yeah, don't be shy to ask questions. Keep them coming. Did we complete everything? Does this make sense? Right? In the industry, the cloud-native industry, there is this mantra, yeah. You need to follow some guidelines to make your applications cloud-aware, right? And that's what it means to be cloud-native. Hopefully, this will all come together soon. But what, yes, sir?
Is it worth saying why this is a desirable approach? You know, what we're trying to get away from, obviously, back to the slide, we're trying to get away from dependencies, we're trying to get away from a rigid code base, one of the things that was pushed out to go in the direction.
You've led me to my next 3 slides, Alric. Right. So, what's the problem? What is the problem? And what we're trying to fix? Traditionally, large organizations or small organizations, even myself, a small man in his shed somewhere in Manchester, have developed applications in a monolithic way. And what that means is all the functionality of my application sits within one code base, one monolithic application created in the same language, programming language. And yeah, I mean, you know what? For some organizations, that's quick, easy, and dirty, right? Yeah. What it means is if you've got skills within one specific language, it might be easier for you to create a monolithic application. But when you start to think about scaling that application or having to scale that application, for example, or try to address certain challenges that might be difficult to address with a specific programming language, and I will talk about some of those examples shortly, right? Or some ideas around that. You might, as an organization, you might get stuck with a monolithic approach, taking one programming language and trying to develop everything in one programming language. Just a quick question. Is there any polyglot developers in the room? Wow, no one. Does anyone program in more than one language? Well, Dave, I know you do, Dave. Okay, there's a few people, a bit nervous, right? Yeah, shit, I don't want to give the game away. Someone might pick on me. All right, so yeah, but you've got, you know, with a monolithic approach, and I'll give you a very, very specific use case in a minute, but with a monolithic approach, it might be quick, dirty, fast, and easy, but in terms of scalability, you might have some problems or challenges around meeting certain requirements with different types of programming language. One of the big challenges, I think, for people or organizations that develop in a monolithic language is the fact that it's one big train, right? It's one big application. If you need to change one feature of that application, typically you have to change the whole bloody application instead of just that one component. So microservices, and in a minute I'll discuss what microservices is an approach that actually allows you to take those constituent parts of that application, divide them up, right, and run them separately, but give you the ability to talk between those different components. What that means is, if you think about the challenge of this monolithic application, if you need to update one feature of your application, then you can do that without disrupting the whole application, because the whole application is many, many moving parts. So this is, I stole this picture, I'm sorry, but did someone else have a question? Yes, sir.
Yeah, with that last slide, will that help me to do things like blue-green deployments?
Oh, yes, absolutely, right, yeah. All right, so the phased approach.
You're basically using a load balancer,
Yeah.
switching it over from once
Have you,
to the new one.
have you sat through the pivotal training? Have you sat through the pivotal training? Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm being sarcastic, mate, sorry. Yes, to your point, this gentleman's saying, you know, using a microservices approach, can we switch out different components as we update them, refresh them, or fix them without disrupting the whole application, because we can do it using NAT and load balancers. I'll come back to that point in a minute, if that's all right. I stole this picture off Google, right? I Googled it, and this could be a typical microservices application. Instead of having that big monolithic application, it's just one big piece of code. You separate out individual pieces of functionality into a separate microservice, and each microservice talks to the next microservice using APIs. Now, to your point, I mean, if you can see here, I know the font's really bad on this projector, but this says driver web UI. And if you wanted to update that driver web UI with the latest version or fix a problem with it, because, you know, this is not part of the grand scheme, we can definitely load balance out this microservice for another iteration of the driver web UI by pointing the NAT address to this new microservice. So, anyone heard of Netflix before? Okay, tell me what Netflix does. Anyone? One feature of Netflix. Go, you sir. What? Streaming. All right, you can have a prize. I'm going prize mad now. This is it. This is the one. All right. This is the one. So streaming. What else?
Service on demand.
Service on demand. There you go. You can have one, and you can have one. There you go. Right. Anyone else? What about? Go on. No, I'm not going to give the game away. What? What? Who said that? Huh? Is it a feature of the Netflix? No. That's what something, they do that as an organization. But what is a feature of the Netflix app? Netflix.com. High availability? Well, we've said on demand. What about, what? Device management. I like that one. You can have one of these. Yeah, there you go. What about something else related to management? Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, I like that one. Analysis. Right. Right.
You're going to get fed, Ricky. Stop.
Do you know, that lurgy's going very quickly, you know. Any more? What about billing? That's same idea this gentleman just said. All right, so Netflix does a lot of things, right? Do you agree? It handles billing, it streams videos, it manages devices. What else does it do? User management as well, right? So we can have different profiles. Yeah, what? Test itself. All right, no. I'm just talking about a user front end, what the user sees, right? So for Netflix is the poster child, really, for microservices, because before 2008, they had a monolithic app. And every time they wanted to update that monolithic app, all hell broke loose. They switched to a microservices approach, broke up those constituent parts into different microservices, and they've been running smoothly ever after. Now, why do that? Go back to that use case, you know, of those different features. What you might find as an organization, what Netflix found as an organization is that not only was it more convenient to have microservices in terms of scalability and rollout, but also from a language perspective as well. So who said Java is the best programming language for streaming video? What? Oracle. Oracle did. All right, so yeah. He does, come on. Who said that then? If you've already had a prize, you can't have another one. Yeah.
Thank you, Ricky.
By the way, the prizes, the ones I've been giving out are either one or two things. It's either a free license for Remote Desktop Manager, which is an awesome administration tool, or it is free backup software from a company called Altero. All right. Oh, there you go. I got my plug-in. So, Netflix. Let's keep going. They broke away from Java, and what that meant for them was all these different individual pieces, these different features, now could be developed in a programming language more suited to that feature. Who said predictive analysis before? Yeah, that man. So, yeah, that R language might be better suited than Java for big data and predictive analysis. Do you see that? Am I painting a picture here? Okay, let's keep going. Okay, let me ask you a question. Let's go back to this picture. Where is this? This.
By your hand.
It's by my hand. But in production, where is it?
Multiple Amazon regions.
It's in my car. Right. No, but where is it? Where are we going with this presentation?
Doesn't matter.
It's in the cloud, but what construct is it in? What, break it down even further.
Ones and zeros.
A bit higher. So, it's in a container, right? So that's important because, you know, from a microservices perspective in Cloud Foundry, each one of these applications, these little modular applications, is running in its own little world, in its own little container. Okay, let's keep going. So, back to PaaS, back to Cloud Foundry. As I mentioned, We've developed two different variants. We have the open source version, which we've developed our own distro. We have the Pivotal version, which we use for customers that might want an on-premise version. If you didn't know, the main difference between the two from a high-level perspective is, well, Pivotal have developed a lot of value add, right? Extra features, a user interface, a web user interface, and built-in services like database services or logging or message queuing. The open source variant is very much an API, right, and a CLI, and that's about it. Everything else you have to do yourself, and that's what we've done. Any questions? Let's keep going.
People can't support. Can't support.
Yeah.
Pivotal version,
Yeah. So if you good point, right? So Pivotal, their main bread and butter is support, right? Yeah. They're an open source company, and like other open source vendors, the main contributors, how they make their money is through support. Yeah. Same with us as well, and same with anyone else that's developed the open source version. You're taking it for the support contract or a services wrapper. That was the first one. One important point about Cloud Foundry, and this is why I like Cloud Foundry as well. It's polyglot, right? And that's important to me. It might not be important to everyone, but for me it is important because what I've seen is our customers don't have a preference with one specific programming language half the time. They usually have groups of different developers that have preference around different programming languages. And the great thing about Cloud Foundry is you can add programming languages in the form of what's called a build pack, right? So you're not just constrained to what comes out of the box. Also, there's a whole community of people that are building these things called build packs, which are, different variants or different versions or different frameworks of programming languages. Just like the Docker community, where you've got this Docker hub and you can download different images that people have created, you have that with programming languages with Cloud Foundry as well. So Cloud Foundry is very much a container technology, right? Yeah. It was based on the original LXC Linux container technology, but like Docker, now uses what's called C groups. More recently, the Cloud Foundry Foundation have actually started recoding everything in Golang. There's a very specific reason for that. Not that because Go is sexy or Ruby's any worse, but what the Cloud Foundry Foundation have done recently is extended Cloud Foundry so it can support Docker containers, right? So you're not constrained to the actual. Is that my warning?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Damn! Right, let's fast forward. Okay. So, in a nutshell, this is a very high-level view of Cloud Foundry. We have containers. It's got built-in containers. So Cloud Foundry's been doing containers for years, but it's the whole lifecycle management of those containers around that, right? Yeah. If you want to learn more, I think you should come and see me afterwards. What I'd like to do for the rest of my few moments is do a quick demo. Is that all right? Cool. All right. Damn, I knew 40 minutes wouldn't be enough. Do you remember this? It's my crappy Hello World app, right? So, this is our user interface. This is what Cloud Foundry looks like from a user perspective. So this is the user interface for Cloud Foundry. It's not the Pivotal one. It looks similar to the Pivotal one. The concept around Cloud Foundry is that it's multi-tenant. You have the ability to segment up developers based on user groups and organizations and functions as well. So we can have multi-tenancy, and we can even have dedicated areas known as spaces. And those spaces could be for test, dev, and whatever production. Does that make sense? However you want to carve those up. From a what's supported out of the box perspective, and this is the value of Cloud Foundry. It's not just the microservices, it's not just the container technology, it's the fact that we're automating the inclusion of these different frameworks, these different languages as part of the build of your application. So I've got an application, it's that Happy Hello World app, right? Yeah? It was written in Go, and I'm going to push that into Cloud Foundry, right, in a minute, but I'm going to do that with one line, one command. Right? And Cloud Foundry has the intelligence in it, built into it, to know that is a Go application, what type of Go application, what the dependencies are, and it will do the rest for me. It's the magic sauce, right? Does that make sense so far? Now, just one other thing. Can I do this from here? The other thing I haven't really conveyed, and I think this is really important about PaaS. It's not just about app automation, it's about back-end services as well. So with Cloud Foundry, what you can do is your off-the-shelf platforms like JBoss servers or Tomcat servers, right, or MongoDBs, yeah, or message queues like RabbitMQ. They can be there for you, ready for use, so you don't have to install them, you don't have to map them. They're there as an attachable resource. That is another advantage of having Cloud Foundry. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay, look, so I'm going to cheat. I'm going to show you something very quickly. Cloud Foundry is mostly API-based. You saw the user interface, but the real core use of it is using an API. And there's a CLI called CF for Cloud Foundry. I'm going to log into my environment across the web. I'm going to pick a space, because I've got 3 spaces. I'm going to go into test. I'm going to move into my application directory, where my application is. And by the way, I just wanted to show you very quickly that's rubbish, isn't it? You need a better resolution on the projectors. Yeah, that's still not better. Okay. So this is my application. It's nothing much, right? Yeah. It's all it does. Yeah, and I thought it was a bit geeky. It talks to a weather station, an API, and it brings back the current weather over London. That's all, right? So, from here, what I can do is, I'm cheating because I've got no time. I've just instructed Cloud Foundry to inject my app from my local machine and across the internet to our Cloud Foundry instance. What it's now doing is creating a container for my little application, building. No, it's still going. We're doing it across the bloody internet, Amit. Do you know what to expect, bro? Don't scare me like that. Right. So what it's doing now is actually building a container with the correct runtime for this Go app. It's intelligently worked out that this is a Go app application and then that it has some dependencies, right? Yeah? And there you go, it's done. Now, it's not going to work though, and I'll tell you why. Because right now, my Go app is not following the principles of 12-factor applications. So it's not cloud aware. I have to do something. What, am I like out of time?
Oh.
All right. So I've just added an environment variable, right, to this application, which is my API key. You can write it down quick if you want. And that's stored with the application now, right? Yeah? I've now made my application cloud aware, right? So if I want to, I can scale this application up and down as much as I want, run it whenever I want, and it's fully stateless, right? Now, the last thing I have to do is this. Just let me start that application up. Don't start sneezing, you'll get me doing it. Alright, so my app is running in a microservice container on Cloud Foundry somewhere on the internet. And it was as simple as that. I didn't have to tell Cloud Foundry to do anything, I just gave it my app and it's now running there. And just to prove a point, I can access the app. You see it? Cool. Guys, is there any questions? I'm sorry we ran out of time, but if you want to hassle me later and go into a bit more detail, I'll be here all day if I can survive that problem. I want to give out some prizes before we go. I think these are the good ones right now. So, can anyone tell me anything interesting that you found out today about Cloud Foundry? First person to put their hand up. You, sir. Garden. What does that mean? And what does it mean now? Yeah. Okay. Come and see me in a minute after we finish. Dean. Spun out from VMware. Actually, it's a bit more than that, but we'll talk about that in detail. Last question. Anyone? It'll do everything for you. That's the whole point, right? That's your key takeaway. Let me ask you a question before you go, guys. Is there anyone actually interested in trying Cloud Foundry at home themselves? Or in their, please come and see me because I've got a few little things for you.